built back up with higher doses. Yeah, and that's 1,000 international units of D3 per day or 3,000 units of D2 is probably effective in most persons. Check, once you're replacing, check every 6 to 8 weeks a serum 25-hydroxy level to ensure adequacy of treatment. In those individuals with serious diseases that are associated with vitamin D deficiency, such as cancer, heart disease, osteoporosis, multiple sclerosis, diabetes, autoimmune disorders, we should attempt to get levels up into that 40, 50, 60 range. Now, just to close, I want to give you some real wisdom. Can I share with you some real wisdom? That will confound the wise. Invalids too often deprive themselves of sunlight. This is one of nature's most healing agents. It is a very simple remedy, and therefore not a fashionable remedy. It's too simple. To enjoy the rays of God's sunlight and to beautify our homes with its presence. Our own folly has led us to deprive ourselves of things that are precious, of blessings which God has provided, and which, if properly used, are of inestimable value for the recovery of health. You'll find that in 2T 527. Volume 2 of the Testimonies, 527. Those who have the aged to provide for, they should remember that these especially need warm and comfortable rooms. Vigor declines as years advance, leaving less vitality with which to resist unhealthful influences, and hence the greater necessity for the aged to have plenty of sunlight and fresh, pure air. That's from Adventist Home 149. Here's that quote. If all of our workers were so situated that they could spend a few hours each day in outdoor labor, and they felt free to do this, in other words, they didn't have to feel guilty, it would be a blessing to them, and they would be able to discharge more successfully the duties of their calling. If they have not time for just complete relaxation, they could be planning and praying while at work with their hands, and then could return to their labor refreshed in body and spirit. That's from Gospel Workers, page 240. Pastor Daly, right in about that section, there is another quotation about pastors that I thought was so interesting. It says that pastors are just as much doing the work when they're out in their gardens as they are behind the desk. And you know why? Because they're taking care of the temple. They're taking care of the temple. And so we need, you see, our minds have been soldered by the world. Can't you see how God wants to re-educate us? We need to bring in these reforms so that God's people can have the blessing that God wants for us to have. There are but few who realize that in order to enjoy health and cheerfulness, would you like to enjoy health and cheerfulness? Then you must have an abundance of sunlight, pure air, and physical exercise. We pity little children who are kept confined indoors when the sun is shining gloriously without. That's from ML. What is ML? We'll have to look it up. 138. ML 138. I don't think that's My Life Today. ML.
That's My Life Today.
Is it? Okay. 138. Go out into the light. Same page. Go out into the light and the warmth of the glorious sun and share with vegetation its life-giving, health-giving power. Page 138 again. When God had made our world and darkness was upon the face of the deep, He said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good. Shall we close our houses and exclude from them the very light that God has pronounced as good? If you would have your homes sweet and inviting, make them bright with air and sunshine. If you have God's presence and possess earnest, loving hearts, a humble home made bright with air and sunlight, it will be to your family a heaven below. Exercise and a free, abundant use of the air and sunlight, blessings which heaven has freely bestowed upon all, would give life and strength. May God help us to get back to His Word, right? And I think we're going to be a much more happy and healthy people, living simply, but enjoying a life that was destined for kings and queens.